This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Research Talks podcast here from Stockbox with Alan Green. So, Alan, it's been quite an interesting week, hasn't it? I mean, I was travelling. Last time we spoke, I was very close in proximity to you. I had a little walk around Chichester and I saw a sight that's quite common to you, Spitfire flying around. But it was nice for me to see that. That was lovely. And I believe you also had the wonderful experience of seeing the Northern Lights down in the south of England over the last night.
You're absolutely right, Mark. They were the Southern Lights. We had the
Southern Lights, yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, there was a big solar flare on Wednesday, and the astrologist reckoned it would take up to Thursday night for it to reach us. But reach us it did. It was incredible. Yeah, my wife and I walked outside last night, and you could see this red haze in the sky. And of course, your camera lens will always capture that a little better. So, I've got this. I've got a Samsung phone, and it's a pretty good phone with a great camera. So I captured a few pictures, of course, put those up on Twitter and a few other places. And again, seeing along the south coast, there are so many other people, seeing similar things. And an old colleague of ours, Les Ames, up in Cambridgeshire, also saw the same. So it was all over. Really quite a sight, and very, very privileged to see it. What we were saying before we came on air, I wouldn't actually travel to go and see the Northern Lights, but goodness me, when they come to you, you've got to sort of view them. It really was exceptional. So yes, hoping to bring some divine inspiration to the research talks this weekend.
Well, let's hope so. So we're going to cover Power Metal Resources, who, of course, concluded that uranium deal, very good looking uranium deal, £10 million of cash to go and explore, Power retaining 30%, and of course being the operator, the planner and the operator of the exploration, but not upfronting any of the money. So that's I think a very good deal by Sean there. Really kind of really confirming the Power model, that explore. Is it explore, scale, crystallize? Maybe I've got the middle word wrong, but it's definitely explore and then crystallize. So that's the second crystallization event from Power. We're going to cover Rainbow Rare Earths, another rare earths company who we haven't spoken about before, but it's good to cover more rare earth companies. And then we'll finish up with Cobra Resources, of course. In fact, Cobra is in rare earths as well, isn't it? That's, of course,
it is.
I forgot about that. Of course, that's what Cobra are really focusing on, and that metallurgical work they've completed recently. Looking like the project's economical. They've got to continue doing some work. But anyway, if we start with Pow, Alan, and bring us up to speed on Pow, and inspire us.
Okay, right. So of course we spoke last week about Cadence of Minerals and how incredibly undervalued the stock is, and at the moment the markets do not seem to be functioning and valuing stocks at their correct level, quite simply because when you look at the package of assets both companies have, it's absurd. And I think with Pow even more so, because the company still holds a 45% stake in Guardian Metal Resources. So based on the current market capitalization of Guardian Metal Resources, that equates to 14 million. And as we look at Power today, the shares are trading at just under 15p, giving it a market capitalization of 17 million. So everything else within Power's remit, within Power's asset portfolio, is worth just 3 million, according to the market, which is absolutely nuts. So I'm just going to go through each investment or each asset the company holds briefly, and then of course we'll look at the development on the uranium project, which I think is a real a major step forward for the group, and I think really has crystallized value, which is yet to be appreciated by the market. So for investors at this level, it represents a fantastic opportunity. The company also holds stock in First Class Metals. Of course, First Class Metals has had a pretty challenging year, I think is fair to say. Shares of the company traded 2p, giving it a valuation of 2 million. So, of course, with that adds a sort of couple of 100,000 onto the valuation of Power Metals. The company also owns the assets which are owned by the company First Development Resources. Of course, that is set for an IPO, but the shareholding there remains just under 59%. So when that comes to market, the value in those assets will be realized. We have the Haneti asset, of course, in Tanzania. 35% is owned by POW, and there has been some movement on that recently. We have the Malopo Farms project, of course, in Botswana. Developments underway there. Then, of course, the New Horizon assets in Canada, Silver Peak in Canada, where there are stakes. And of course, the Tati asset, which are the gold-bearing assets in Botswana, which POW owns 100% of. So you just add those together, and I've done this before. And of course, we've had a sort of back of the envelope valuation and 30 million, 45 million. But frankly, it doesn't seem to impact on where the market values the company currently, and that's simply is the market broken, or is the company with a series of assets like this, is the market unable to see and value it correctly? It's a mystery. So we also have the agreement with Saudi Arabia as well. And of course, POW has a number of agreements there. Most recently, the struck an agreement with AMAC, a Saudi mining company, a joint venture, and earning an opportunity to earn 49% to the Qatar exploration license in southern Saudi Arabia. The group are working to establish an initial mineral resource estimate for the Habda prospect at the Qatar license. There's also an agreement with ASX listed Alara Resources and Ortad Copper, an earning opportunity for a 12.5% stake in a concession in the Oman for a copper prospect. So all of these moving parts are making progress. And then, of course, we come to the UCAM agreement, which is I think it's helped crystallize value on the uranium front, because it's bought all of the uranium assets owned by POW under various guises into one package. And of course, the initial plan was to IPO the uranium assets, but in the current market, I think Sean made absolutely the correct decision, span it out into a vehicle. So UCAM have come in, invested 10 million into the Canadian subsidiary, which is actually the ex-Power Metals Canada, a company called 1501158 BC Limited. With that 10 million investment, they acquire 70%. As you rightly said, Mark, Power remains the operator on the ground, operating the licenses. And these, of course, include Perch River, Tate Hill, Cook Lake, Reitenbach, Thibault Lake, Clearwater, Soaring Bay, E12, and of course the latest one, which is the Drake Lake Silas assets, which would have been rolled into the IPO, but is now included in the UCAM JV within within the new Canadian company. On top of this, Power will also receive an additional 4 million cash conditional on a sale transaction or some other form of value realization. So there's additional cash to come from this deal. Now, I can go into so many details. Of course, the company still has shares in Kavango, and it has other interests here and there too that I've attempted to outline. But either way, if you take where Guardian Metal Resources are right now, I think it's the shares were trading, of course, much higher than the current level. They're currently trading at 20, 28, 29p. And of course, they have traded as high as 37p. And I think given the developments there with that you've of course discussed with Oliver, that's certainly going to we would expect that to push higher because of course the interest that the company is now getting in the USA. So just on the GMET stake alone, that is held by Power, that's the 45%. That pretty much represents with first class metals the market capitalization of Power Metal. So all this other stuff is for free. It's absolutely nuts. So is it going to go down from here? I can't see how it can. But of course, we're in strange times. The market is strange. The shares have traded higher than this. Power Metal shares have traded as high as 39, as high as, where are we? Sorry, I'm just looking at the wrong chart here. They was traded as high as 25.6p on the year. So currently at this level, there's scope for a rise and increase. But I think if there is a push higher in the GMET price, that at least should propel the stock higher. And at some point, perhaps it needs some fund manager intervention to come in and buy a position in Powell, then we're going to see the shares push high. But it's a head scratcher for me, but it also represents fantastic value, and also that the risk element is low significantly because of the spread of assets.
Indeed, indeed. Of course, the spread of assets is very risk mitigating, isn't it? But as I said at the start, that's another example of power crystallizing. So they've just got to sort of replicate the model, and I think that in Saudi, everything that's going on there, that'll be the next sort of cab off the rank, so to speak. And yeah, it's only a matter of time until the value would sort of recognise, but you could sort of own Power Metal Resources as that merchant banking model, as Rick Rule refers to it as, and effectively have exposure to multiple commodities across multiple jurisdictions, across with the risk spread across different companies, effectively. So, yeah, good. Thank you, Alan. So let's move on. Rainbow Rare Earths, if we can.
Well, of course, and just to pick up on your point, of course, Rick Rule is a shareholder in Power Metal as well. So, he recognizes the value. So at some stage, the value will out and the markets will respond. We were talking about macro factors before. And of course, Mark, we've got the US elections. We also have the UK budget, which I think everyone's waiting to see exactly what Labour are going to do. And of course, if interest rates do fall further this year, I think another 0.25% is widely expected. So if that happens, of course, that will also bring more investors back to the markets, and hopefully we'll start to see some of these valuation gaps redress. But anyway, it offers great value where it is right now.
Indeed, yeah, indeed. Yep. Okay, well, thank you, Alan.
Okay, so Rainbow Rare Earths is the next one. Now this is a London-listed company. It's been trading for many years. Shares are currently trading at 11.5p. They've traded as high as 17p on the year and as low as 8.5p. And as the name would imply, the company is focused on establishing an ethical rare earth element supply chain. And it has a particular focus on permanent magnet rare earths, including neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium. That sounds like a headache tablet, and also terbium as well. So those four are key in permanent magnets. The flagship asset for the company is the Phalaborwa project in South Africa, where the company announced on September the 11th it was updating the mineral resource estimates, and the total measured, inferred, and indicated resource at Phalaborwa is 35 million tons at 0.44% total rare earth oxide. And with that update, the measured category was actually doubled. So that's hugely important in terms of the actual accessible mineable rare earths that are there. Of that, neodymium and praseodymium is representing 29%. Dysprosium and terbium represent 1% and 0.3%. respectively. But the new MRE also includes other recoverable rare earths, including samarium, europium, gadolinium, lanthanum, and cerium. And I was almost going to say unobtainium then, but of course that's a fantasy metal. So there we go. Um, the the resource estimate in situ, the valuation is estimated to be some $3.7 billion. And the chief exec of the company, George Bennett, and I'll cover his CV in a second, confirmed that the latest mineral resource estimate update reconfirmed the huge value at the asset, the Phalaborwa asset. $3.7 billion is highly significant even at today's lower spot prices. So this project has really taken a step forward over the past few weeks. September the 18th, the company announced that Phalaborwa had produced the first magnet rare earths in saleable form from its pilot scheme tests, paving the way for the first commercial recovery from what is referred to as the phosphogypsum minerals. And again, George Bennett said at that point, the innovative processing technology that has now been established, but can also be applied to a much larger addressable market. And the company evaluating approaches to use this technology from through strategic partnerships, both in Saudi Arabia, Canada, and India. Now, the company has some other earlier stage assets too. It has the Uberaba project in Brazil, the OCP partnership in Morocco, and the technology is going to be applied. The technology that's been established at Phalaborwa is going to be applied to both of these projects and assets, and we'll hear more about those developments as we go forward. But also really cornerstoning the value in the asset. Ecora, the mining royalties group, agreed to invest $10 million in a placing, and that really endorsed Phalaborwa as one of the highest margin rare earths projects in the world. And of course, that deal is also more or less non-dilutive to shareholders, which is hugely important. So the shares have really progressed since that news. So we were at lows of, well, year lows during September. Now come off those lows, we're at 11.5p. So I think we're going to see it progress from here. Just a word on the board. We've got Adonis Peroulis, who's the non-exec chairman. He's worked in the African natural resources sector for over 30 years. He listed the Rainbow Rare Earths in 2017. Also founder and chief executive of Chariot Transitional Energy, AIM listed company, and is also was also the founder and chairman of Petra Diamonds as well, a well-known company, of course, in that region. George Bennett, the chief executive, over 25 years in mining. He's had a number of mining energy companies, including Shanta Gold, and George actually listed that on the LSE in 2005. Ore Corp, which he helped seed and raise the initial capital on the ASX a year later in 2006. So he's long established in the field, but certainly Rainbow. And I think when a company like Ecora comes in, it's similar to the Rio Tinto investment into sovereign metals. Ecora have come in, invested into the Phalaborwa project, and have the royalty agreement there. And of course, that's really cornerstoned the development of Phalaborwa, but also the development and the rollout of that technology into the Brazil project, into the Morocco project, and of course, other partnerships that I've outlined. So certainly at a very exciting stage at this present moment in time.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you very much indeed. So, can we finish off with another rare earth company? Then? That's Cobra Rare Earth. Sorry,
Cobra Resources.
it's Cobra Resources. Yeah,
It's Friday. It's fine. It's fine. It's so Cobra Resources, COBR, of course. We've spoken about Cobra on a number of occasions. We both interviewed Rupert on a number of occasions. Of course, the real excitement there at the moment is this burgeoning Bolan project that is really starting to capture the imagination of investors in the market. And of course, we saw the shares at 0.83 just off year lows in August. They're now 1.48p, so a really substantial gain over the past few months, and now trading at year highs, and for good reason. So, of course, Cobra have a number of projects. They have the Wadena project, which is located in the Gawler Craton, home to the largest IOCG iron ore discoveries in Australia. But also the Boland asset was a relatively recent acquisition for the company, and of course, what the company has been able to do with Boland is to develop a unique testing or a paleochannel recovery process to extract rare earths from ionic clays. So throughout the last few months, we've just seen assay results and developments across Poland. In June, the company announced that ISR, that's in situ recovery, bench studies, which were undertaken in association with ANSTO. That's of course the Australian Nuclear Resources organisation, and the ANSTO undertook the bench study testing, established exceptional head grades at Boland, half a metre at 4,500 parts per million total rare earths. And Rupert Verker said at that point the recovery trials at ANSTO really are groundbreaking. If those initial recoveries can be emulated under ISR conditions, it will be globally significant. More progress this month. Of course, we've seen in September, the company added to the Boland project area, added the Yellowbina license to the Boland project, adding a further 950 square kilometers at the Eyre Peninsula. And again, this is all about building the Paleochannel geology land holding, so the company can work with the system to extract the rare earths. Once again, 1st of October, the company confirmed that the ISR bench trials, the in situ recovery bench trials with ANSTO, successfully demonstrated the recovery process as being both low cost and also having a very low environmental impact, which is a key element of the mining process these days. The company confirmed up to 50% total rare earth oxide recovery and also 48% MRE, that's magnetic rare earth oxide recovery, with up to 84% neodymium and praseodymium, 88% dysprosium and terbium. And Rupert Verker said at that point that shareholders can now look forward to further news as we advance towards commercialization. So this is, again, a hugely significant process. The company have pioneered this process along with ANSTO and proved beyond any shadow of doubt that they can take this onto the ground. It's a low-cost process which enables the company to leach the rare earths out of the clays and bring them to market. So, yeah, the market's starting to realise this. We can see in the share price action, trading 1.48p on the, which is pretty much at a year high now. So I expect further progress from this point. The company now has a valuation of 10.7 million, but compared to, for instance, Rainbow Rare Earths, which is valued at 75 million, there's still, in my opinion, a lot further to go for Cobra, certainly in the coming months and in the run up to Christmas.
Indeed, yes, and I think as well, as you said there, with Cobra sort of going through the motions, they're going through the labs, bench testing, and that coming back, showing really, better than they were hoping for, really, an economic viability. And the next step, of course, going on to really pilot that in the field, to take it to the field, and then actually have a pilot plant going, and then look, of course, to scale it up. So all the time refining the metallurgical work there, doing a pilot study, as well as doing sort of further resource drilling. So they're going through the motions there as they should. And as it's looking at the moment, it's looking like it's amenable. It's amenable to in situ recovery, and it looks like it could be economical. So Rupert is very pleased from recent interviews that I've spoken to him on how things are looking. And yeah, they continue to go through those stage gates, as you say, up to Christmas and into the new year. And yeah, all being well, they'll be able to get a successful operation going, or at least, if not that, attract the interest of another player in the space. Because yeah, rare earths, the demand for rare earths are not going anywhere. That's for sure. And there's not enough discovery. There's not enough companies to invest in either. So yeah, I think they're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Also good to see support from the board as well. Of course, back in May, David Clark bought 2.2 million shares at just over a penny. So of course his shareholder is now in Clover. He now holds 9.3% of the company. So it's great to see the board with real skin in the game. So and I'm sure that shareholding and the shareholding of the other directors will increase as the developments come in.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you very much, Alan. As always, have a pleasant weekend, and we'll speak again next week.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great weekend.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.